Hello, everyone. I'm super excited to be here because I can talk about plasma technologies, I can talk about batch auctions, and that's these days like really cool things that are going on in the blockchain ecosystem. So I'm a researcher from Gnosis, and the research of us within the last months was basically focused on how do we build the best market mechanisms that also scale very well. About scalable market mechanisms, just because we want to build the best decentralized exchange. And for that, we took a deep dive into plasma technologies, because we think plasma actually offers the best security for our potential users of the decentralized exchange. Sorry? I couldn't understand you. Can I just go on? Because I hear noises out of here. OK, now let's move on. Don't lose the energy. So we are looking into plasma technologies because it's the technology that offers the best security. And what we also do, we are looking into batch auctions. Batch auctions are decentralized and discrete in time market mechanism, and because it's discrete in time, we think it fits perfectly to blockchains because they are this as well. And in order to enable all of that, we're also looking into cool toolings like distributed key generation, a little bit into snarks, aggregated key signatures, and all that we are needing. So we worked really hard over the last several months, have done several workshops, and now, last Saturday, we finally released our paper. We're very proud of that. We would be very happy if you guys could take a look at it and give us some feedback later. Basically, we released two papers. One is about an optimization problem, which I will explain a little bit later. And the second one is about how do we do that all on Plasma. So my talk has the following structure. First, I want to give some observations, some predictions. Then we will look into the market mechanisms. We will talk a little bit about front running, and then the most interesting part, like how do we actually do this on Plasma. So I want to start off with some teasers. So of course you all know, like these days, most of the people, they're still using centralized exchanges. And basically it is because they are faster, they have the better usability, they scale better. But of course, we think that the decentralized exchanges, that they are catching up quite quickly, and that we will probably see in 1 year already a big shift to these decentralized exchanges. The second teaser I have for you is that these days, atomicity within trades is super hard. Like you try to buy a bit over here and then want to hedge immediately in another market over here. And while you're buying this one over here, somebody else might already front run your hedge over here, and then you simply have to buy the hedge at a worse price, which is not good. So front running is a topic in even the normal traditional markets, but I think within blockchain technologies, it's definitely amplified. But we think with our trading mechanisms, what we can actually offer, we can offer atomic basket trades. So basket trades is that you have a set of tokens and another set of tokens, and you're buying atomically with this set of tokens, another set of tokens. It's really cool if you later on think about how you do trade indices and so on. And we promise that we can do that completely without front running. Now, this one is also super interesting. So these days, we see that we have dominant trading pairs. For us in our Ethereum ecosystem, most of the tokens are traded against Ether. But in the future, we will think we have many more stable coins. And these stable coins probably will change the picture a little bit, because the liquidity of these tokens, they will split to these different stable coins. And we want to come up with a market mechanism that can also handle these more complex situations. So these were the three teasers. Now let's look a little bit into the market mechanisms which we are actually proposing. So I already said quite a frequent time, like batch auctions. But what are these actually? I just want to give some background. So for batch auctions, we are collecting orders over a predefined time. And the shorter this predefined time, the better it is. We are basically collecting orders. I want to buy a token A for token B, and orders the other way around, and then we are always getting an order book. And this order book looks quite similar to all the order books you already know. The only thing is that the buy orders and the sell orders, that they have an overlap because they're collected over a longer time period. And then with this overlap, we can calculate for each batch an optimal price so that the optimal price maximizes the trading volume. And then we can settle all these orders with this optimal price. And we think this is the fairest and best price for every participant. So this was the concept of batch auctions. Now let's take another look at ring trades. It's just the basic concept I want you to familiarize with. So let's start. We have a token A and a token B. And there is only a sell order from token A to token B, but no order the other way around. So because we have only an order in one way, we cannot settle anything. But it might happen that we have also sell order B for A, and that we also have a sell order C for A. And now, what we can actually do, we can close the ring and fulfill all orders. So this is the basic concept of ring trade. We will not directly use ring trades, but something which is kind of similar. So I gave you this teaser. How do we deal with this new situation? What we are proposing is a market mechanism that I want to explain you over here with 3 tokens. Imagine we have 3 tokens, A, B, and C, and of course, between all these tokens, we have order books. Now, what we want to do with these order books, we want to map them into a multi-dimensional order book. So basically what we do, we are creating an order book with each axis the prices. The prices A versus B, the prices C versus A, and the prices B versus C. Yeah, this was the last one. And now for every point in this diagram basically represents a set of prices. And for this set of prices, we can calculate the trading volume that we would get if we would look at these order books. And now what we are interested in is the price which generates the biggest trading volume for us. And this price will later on give the best benefit to all traders because it will optimize the traders' welfare. And so what we are basically doing, we are executing all ring trades at the best possible price with this kind of mechanism. I'm very excited about that. It's pretty cool. So now I want to explain how that all then works like in the process. So we are first collecting orders, any token against any token. We probably will, in our first implementations, collect them about like 3 minutes, but we hope that we can reduce this time. And then we compute these uniform clearing prices, just as I explained them before. So what these uniform clearing prices, what we want them to have is the maximum trading volume for all possible prices. We want the prices to be arbitrage-free, and we have to fulfill some constraints. For example, that the sum of all tokens sold equals the sum of all tokens bought. Basically, in order to not generate any additional tokens with that. And then we can already settle all the orders. So this is how we want to set up the whole process. Now, I promise you that we will show you how to do batch trading without any front running. And I gave you this teaser for it, and now I want to explain it to you. The technology that we are using for it, it's called distributed key generation. And within distributed key generation, we first generate a public key for which the private key is not known. And this is what all the algorithm is about. So it works like this. First, we have some bonded participants who generate secrets, crypto secrets that are basically paired together. And what they will do in the first step, they will only provide in the protocol the orange pieces, but not the white pieces. So they will keep a secret of that. And with these orange pieces, what we can do, we can generate a public key for which the private key is not known. Now we move on. We are collecting all the orders, and they are encrypted with this public key. We can commit a batch. Yes, we want to have all these orders in the batch. And then only once we have committed to the batch, the DKG participants, they come again together and generate the private key. So with this, we are basically getting a process with enforced trade settlement. Then I also told you that we can have basket trades. And within a batch auction, you can do their pretty cool things. Basically, you can put in orders that are conditional. So I'm buying here conditional the token D with C, but only if the orange arrow is fulfilled, if C to B is fulfilled. And you can make that arbitrarily complex and basically do these basket trades where you're trading the white tokens against the orange tokens. So this was all super cool in theory, but now we're coming to the exciting part. How do we actually do that on Plasma? So we have specified a specification that has kind of these key features. So we were running batch auctions all 3 minutes. We will collect about 60,000 orders in a batch. This is around like 150 transactions capacity. We will all build that on the Plasma MVP. And we will, of course, like all the trades, they will be settled much, much cheaper than any on-chain exchange just because we can use Plasma. So I gave you this teaser, and I think with the specification that I just mentioned, we are coming much closer to this shifting point that people really no longer care about centralized exchanges, they just prefer the security of the decentralized exchanges. Now, I want to explain like how that all works in Plasma. So we start with the basics, like how the Plasma MVP means. And here I really mean the minimal viable product, not the more viable product. So Plasma is basically a sidechain. It is built like this. There you have this Plasma chain, which generates some blocks. And we have a root chain in which everything is kind of committed and rooted. So every time we are creating transaction block, this block is kind of compromised. It's hashed together, and then only the hash is submitted to the Ethereum root chain. Plasma chains are operated by a central authority. And the best feature about Plasma exchanges is that if anything invalid happens in the Plasma chain, then actually everyone can leave the chain and no funds are at risk. Of course, this is always only under certain assumptions. Basically, that transactions are not centered on the Ethereum root chain, but we have never ever seen these cases. So we really believe in this technology. Now, I want to proceed, and how do we actually do that on the Plasma MVP with the auctions? So again, we start that we're having a root chain in our Plasma chain, which is run by a central operator by us. And then we are collecting these orders over 3 minutes. We will create an order block, and also as all the other transaction blocks, they are then hashed together and committed to the Ethereum root chain. Then the operator will calculate all the fancy prices, which I told you previously, and then we can indirect these prices into the Plasma chain, settle everything, and then already start the next auction. So in theory, it can go very quickly. This is just the very rough picture, and now for the little bit more advanced audience, I want to go a little bit deeper into detail, like how it actually works. For this, I prepared this kind of detailed chart. So we have the Ethereum root chain and the Plasma chain. And actually, as I told you before, we want to use DKG in order to encrypt our orders. So first, the DKG participants, they come together and generate this public key. Then we are encrypting all the orders. They're all collected by a central operator, and then we are generating this order block. But within Plasma, there's always this notion of double signing. And of course, we also need to double sign our orders. And we even need to do it in a little bit more special way. What we are using over here is an aggregated signature. So basically, every participant who wants to participate in a batch, who has the order in there, needs to hand over a double signature to the operator. And he then transfers all these double signatures into a bitmap. And this bitmap represents the aggregated signature. Good. Now we are at the stage where all the transactions are double signed. And we know exactly who participates in the batch. And then we can move on. And the DKG participants generate a private key, and then we can actually decrypt all the orders and know what actually is in the orders. Once this is done, the operator can start all the price calculations, and he can basically put into the next block all the results. Into the results are coming the prices. We need to put in some snark proofs that prove like all the constraints I mentioned. For example, that the price is arbitrage free, that the sum of tokens sold equals the sum of tokens bought. And we also need to put in all the volumes with which the orders are fulfilled. Then we can basically settle all the orders and move on to the next batch. This is basically just the happy case. But of course, now you're also interested, like, what happens if the plasma chain just goes offline, or if the operator does something invalid? And I want to start, like, there are basically two cases. The first case is when something happens before the double signing procedure. But hey, that's what we have the double procedure for. Then people would simply not double sign if something goes wrong before the double signing. And now, if something goes wrong after the double signing, we have everything constructed so that we can publicly request the critical information on the Ethereum root chain. Like a bitmap, we can load up to the root chain. The prices, we can load up. Snark proofs, we can load up. And also volume hash and a private key. That's not too much data. We can actually load it up to the Ethereum root chain. And then we allow everyone to settle their orders actually via the exit. And with that, the funds are never, ever at risk. So we are super excited about it. I know this was a lot of details and so on, but like the key picture that I want you to remind after this talk is basically this one, because it describes the best what we are doing. We are taking lots of order books, put them into a multi-dimensional order book, and then settle everything on the best prices, and we do it on Plasma. So I want to thank you all for your attention, and of course also special thanks goes to the team who helped all the time with the incredible work. Thank you all.
Thank you. It was a great presentation. So we've got a couple questions here. The first is regarding the ring trading mechanism and finding the optimal price. Is that something that's done on-chain? Because it sounds like a very expensive operation, or is it performed off-chain?
The cool thing is that we can actually do that off-chain. We really have to do it off-chain because it's quite complex. It's an optimization problem. You simply don't want to do it on-chain. But the good thing is that the constraints that in the end need to be fulfilled, they need to be somehow proven on the Ethereum chain. And we can do that with snarks very efficiently, and that's the beauty in it.
OK. And the second question, and there are a couple of questions about this, is about security and privacy and confidentiality. How do you ensure the confidentiality of users performing trades on the Plasma chain?
So privacy we can these days not really ensure. And what is the second part, the confidentiality?
So there's a question here about the security modeling and how this system ensures confidentiality of transactions. Perhaps the person who asked the question would like to clarify.
What exactly is meant in this context with content? How is that word called, conditionality?
OK. I mean, maybe you can just address confidentiality.
So we think that security is all the time, given that people never, if they are constantly online, if they're checking these with the same requirements as the usual Plasma MVP, then the tokens are never really at risks. And the privacy is given only while we are encrypting orders, but later on they will be all decrypted, and later on everyone can see exactly which orders were placed. So it's not yet focused on privacy. We are just happy that we can port this already on Plasma exchange only.
Great. Thank you very much.